After the initial clashes between British Sea Harriers and Argentine Mirages on May 1, 1982, the Argentine leadership decided that trying to confront the British fighters was a bad strategy. Argentine aircraft would from that point attack the enemy using speed and low-level flight as their only defense. This topic was covered in depth on this channel in a 3-part video. Check it out if you missed it. But it doesn't mean that Argentine fighter pilots never again tried to fight the Sea Harriers. Just before midnight on 20th of May, a large British amphibious group entered the San Carlos water and began to disembark land units. Argentinians only learned of this operation in the morning and immediately launched a maximum effort strike. The first wave consisted of 11 daggers. The British relied on Royal Navy warships in the Falkland Sound and Sea Harrier patrols on their cap stations for defense. The Harrier force was now strengthened by additional 8 Sea Harriers which arrived on Atlantic convoy. 3 combat air patrol stations were designated, one north of Pebble Island, one on the southern end of the Falkland Sound, and one to the west of San Carlos water. It appears that only the northern and southern cap stations were initially manned. It was a challenge nevertheless because the 2 British carriers were kept well to the east of the Falklands in order to keep them safe from exocet attacks. Sea Harriers had to fly to the combat zone for about half an hour, and once there, they would have to fly at economical speeds to maximize their endurance. The first Argentine wave was not intercepted. The daggers hit HMS Antrim and Broadsword, losing 1 airplane to Assam. The Southern Harrier patrol was directed to engage the egressing attackers, but they failed to catch the supersonic daggers. The southern cap station was manned by Sea Harriers from HMS Hermes, and they were flying at 8,000 feet. British pilots dived and then launched an AIM-9L at the daggers, but without any result. The second Argentine wave wasn't so lucky. They lost 2 A4 Skyhawks to Sea Harriers flown by Lieutenant Commander Mike Blissett and Lieutenant Commander Neil Thomas. In spite of this success, the amphibious group was obviously too exposed, and the British carriers were moved closer to increase Harriers' on-station time. 3 pairs were now launched each hour. The third Argentine wave consisted of 3 formations of 10 daggers and 2 formations of Navy Skyhawks. 4 daggers departed from Rio Grande, while 6 took off from San Julian between 1:55 and 2 p.m. The 4 daggers from Rio Grande arrived first. They were led by Capitan Horacio Mir Gonzalez. The formation was detected by HMS Brilliant's radar before it descended to low level, and 2 Harriers from 800 Squadron were directed to intercept it. They were flown by Lieutenant Commander Rod Fredrickson and Sub-Lieutenant Andy George. The Harriers went down through the weather near Charter Settlement on King George Bay. Lieutenant Commander Fredrickson launched an AIM-9L on the trailing dagger flown by Primer Teniente Hector Luna. He ejected successfully. Other Argentine pilots didn't even notice the Harriers and assumed that Luna had crashed into the ground along the route. The surviving 3 daggers spotted HMS Ardent heading towards San Carlos water and attacked it. One of the bombs hit the ship's stern and caused heavy damage. This was followed by another flight of daggers at 2:45, which attacked 2 Type 22 frigates. Their bombs missed, but their strafing damaged HMS Brilliant. 5 minutes later, the second dagger section, the Raton flight, approached using the route between Morandi Range and Hornbeam Mountains. They were about to come across the Western Sea Harrier patrol flown by the 801 Squadron CO, Nigel Sharkey Ward, and Lieutenant Steve Thomas. A couple of hours earlier, Ward and Thomas had engaged two Argentine pucaras, and Ward shot one of them down by his guns. Ward and Thomas were now flying their third mission of the day. They were at low level, unlike Sea Harriers from HMS Hermes. Harrier pilots were instructed to patrol at medium level and then dive on the attackers. Since Argentinian aircraft were arriving at very low level, Ward thought this made no sense, as it would be hard to intercept them before they could attack British ships. So he ignored these orders and simply flew on low level, hoping to prevent Argentine aircraft from attacking the ships in the first place. These tactics would soon prove correct. 3 Argentine daggers were heading east at low level in a line abreast formation. The leader was Capitan Guillermo Donadille, with Mayor Gustavo Piuma on his left and Primer Teniente Jorge Sen on the right. Thomas and Ward were flying racetrack patterns with about half a mile separation. At the end of his southerly track, Sharkey Ward spotted 2 triangular silhouettes approaching from the west. At about the same time, Primer Teniente Jorge Sen on the right side of Dagger Formation spotted a Sea Harrier at his 3 o'clock at about 1,000 feet higher than his flight. Donadille also spotted the Harrier. He ordered his flight to jettison their bombs and fuel tanks and brake right. Mayor Piuma on the left performed a climbing turn, hoping to get into a more favorable position for combat. Sharkey Ward turned sharply into the daggers and increased power to full throttle. Donadille opened cannon fire on Ward but missed. Ward passed straight between the 2 daggers of Donadille and Sen. He then turned to his right, thinking that the daggers might continue towards the Falkland Sound. At the same time, Thomas executed a hard descending turn and placed his aircraft behind the daggers. According to some sources, he spotted the daggers first. He locked up Sen's dagger and launched his Sidewinder. It struck the jet directly, but Jorge Sen was able to eject and survive. Thomas didn't see his kill as he was now focusing on Donadille. The dagger pilot was in the right turn and in full afterburner. Thomas launched his second Sidewinder, which followed the dagger for a long time but eventually hit. Capitan Donadille also ejected and survived. Sharkey Ward was observing his wingman's victories, but he wasn't clearing his own tail and he suddenly saw a dagger to his right. That was Mayor Piuma, who was able to make a slashing gun attack from Ward's starboard side. Piuma missed and passed underneath Ward's Harrier at about 120 feet of altitude. Ward wasn't aware of the dagger's gunfire, but he was able to make a hard turn and launch a Sidewinder at it. It was another hit, and fortunately, the third Argentine pilot also survived. This wasn't the end of drama, as Ward and Thomas regrouped and headed east towards Falkland Sound. Ward saw what he first thought were seagulls. Those were actually Argentine Navy Skyhawks, orbiting and deciding which ship to attack. Ward called this on the radio, and another Harrier section appeared to deal with them. The Skyhawks, however, were able to mortally damage HMS Ardent, but all three were shot down by Lieutenant Clive Morrell and Flight Lieutenant John Leeming. Ward then called his wingman, who was nowhere in sight. Thomas didn't reply, and Ward thought the worst, but Thomas's Harrier had been hit by an anti-aircraft gun, disabling his radio. He then returned to Invincible and landed safely, followed by Sharkey Ward with a minimum fuel load. Another Argentine formation attempted to attack the British landing force at dusk, but found no targets. Of 12 Argentine formations that effectively engaged British forces, 3 were intercepted prior to their attack. The Sea Harriers shot down 4 Daggers and 5 Skyhawks. The formation which engaged Ward and Thomas was the only Argentine flight shot down by Sea Harriers where all the pilots survived. Thank you for watching. Join our Patreon supporters or donate on PayPal to ensure future content, and keep watching Showtime 112.